This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cliff Yates Show. Blue backing blue. I am retired LA Sheriff Sergeant Cliff Yates. Yes, 35 years on the job doing police work, law enforcement. 5 years in upstate New York, then 30 with the largest sheriff's department in the world. Yes, proudly served. And a lot of us, because I've been retired for over 10 years, go on to other things, other interests. We retire, we leave the job behind, which is what I did, into motivation, inspiration, stand-up comedy, writing, other things other than law enforcement. But as I comment, why aren't people backing law enforcement? Look at the propaganda the mainstream media is putting out. This is so many lies and untruths, and it's just turning people against law enforcement and the police. Well, you know what? It's time to stand up. I have to say something. As you can see, I got the blue line flag behind me. I got my little police car and my weapon there, the real P365 Sig Sauer. And so, listen, blue backing law enforcement. There's never been a better time, or there's never been a more important time for us to come together, back law enforcement. Obviously, there are problems, corruption, there are abuses that take place, and now we're seeing a lot of it. We see it a lot with these body cams, and now with those recent horrific videos of those prison guards in upstate New York, the horrific atrocity that was with that inmate, regardless of what he did. And here they are filming themselves. Do they not realize? I heard a couple different responses to that. Well, they didn't. They thought it was on pause, or for some reason they thought they were going to get rid of the recording, or some idiocy. These guys are the stupidest idiots in the world, and they need to have 10 times whatever the normal punishment is, and that it should be in law enforcement. No one hates bad cops more than good cops who are the 99.9. And I'm telling you, it's so. Corruption within law enforcement is not systemic racism. The corruption in law enforcement is so few and far between. When they find something, even legitimate, like this atrocity, they're going to blanket that into all of law enforcement, merit out the corruption, merit out these corrupt officers, throw the book at them, incarcerate them, convict them of crimes. And obviously, it's important that we do what we need to do to correct these atrocities and these crimes. But, and this is not against prison guards, but these were prison guards. But of course, all of law enforcement will be painted with a broad picture like the mainstream media does. The mainstream media is, and you really shouldn't be listening to it. Well, if you listen to it just to know what the propaganda is they're putting out there, that's important. It's good to know what the other side is saying, because sometimes I look and I say, what kind of idiot would believe what they're actually putting out there? But people don't know. They're getting sound bites and video clips, and that's how they're judging what's going on in the world. And the mainstream media takes advantage of that propaganda, because it seems as though their main goal is to really cause disruption and to divide the country along racial lines, ideological lines, political lines. This is not about right, left. It's up, down. So when we talk about the prison guard situation, obviously it's an atrocity that needs to be addressed with the fullest extent of the law. Police officers agree with that. I'm sure most of people working in the prisons believe that also. And the great thing is that these atrocities and corruption and abuses are found out because of these body cams. On another note, this defund the police, this propaganda that was a bunch of lies that has created this negative view of police officers starting back in, I want to say 2012, 13, or even before that, before I even retired, which prompted me to write my book, The Truth About Cops and Why You Should Trust Them. I took it off Amazon because it really had good information on it, good reviews, but there was a lot of errors on it. Even though I had it edited, people were still finding errors. And on Amazon, when you find errors, you can actually send it in to Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and then they will notify you to correct your errors. Now, I didn't have the original transcript, So I took it down because I didn't really want any errors in it, but it was really accurate. And what prompted me to write that book is because I worked in recruitment. I worked in the backgrounds. My wife was a background investigator. I was a supervisor. And so, listen, to get into law enforcement, it is no easy task. It's hard for a bad person of any immoral background to get on a law enforcement agency, especially a large agency like the LA Sheriff's Department, the California Highway Patrol, New York State Police. These are the ones that I know about, LAPD. And out of 10,000 applicants, maybe you're going to get hired. By the time it gets down to the end of the background, you're going to maybe, out of 10,000 applicants, maybe you get 100 people. And that's kind of how the numbers are. And boy, if you have anything in your background, when people conduct background investigations, I mean, they go back to your childhood. They go back to high school, people you went to high school, teachers, and they go back to where you went to college, and they notify the police agencies where you went to college in case there was any contact, any police reports. Were there any reports written by the college security where you went? And when possible, the background investigators do a door knock on your neighbors. Hey, this person right here in this house here is applying to be in law enforcement, and they ask for input if there's any reason why you would think they would not be good for the job. And they go 10, 20 houses all the way around where that person lives. Local police departments at every location where they lived. Back in the military, if they were in the military. They comb through all their social media, past, present. If somebody wiped out their social media, that would be a red flag. They in most cases, I don't know if they still do. At one time, they made the applicants give their passwords to their social media accounts, and they would comb through those to see if there was anything to indicate of any immoral character. And they would use that not only if there was immoral character in their background, but also if they were lying by omission, by not stating certain things, and certain thing happens. Polygraph test to the background applicants, and then the interview process. They're looking at any evidence of immoral character. They look at the finances. Do you have any late notices? You have to give your credit report. And so the background investigators do 2 or 3 in-person interviews, and if they're out of state, they do interviews on Zoom. And they still contact by letters, neighbors, people they worked for, past employers, teachers. And they really go through an in-depth process to ferret out anybody that really should not be in law enforcement. In my book, The Truth About Cops and Why You Should Trust Them, I go into detail on those background procedures that most agencies do use. And as I said, I was prompted to write that book because of the way the media was portraying the police. I mean, the police, when I talk about the LA Sheriff's Department, you see all these, you see a lot of negative articles now about police gangs, and every station within the LA Sheriff's Department, they had station mascots and people got tattoos. These were social groups. Now, did sometimes people do criminal activity, do bad things, and they happen to have these tattoos, or they were part of this social group? This was to make the jump from social group to criminal enterprise is a big leap, which is not true, but the media has really focused on doing this because of recent lawsuits and people who have done bad things, and they've been more closely associated with these symbols that stations had as their station mascots, and mostly used in athletic events and station competitions, and used for station pride. But now they've been painted as criminal gangs within the LA Sheriff's Department. And of course, I'm going to get some negative comments about this, because this will fire up the trolls out there. But that's fine. We still go forward and do what we need to do, telling truth, honesty, and humility. And the mainstream media, who, if you go back to the propaganda that was put out there, remember it was the Michael, I'm trying to think of the incident where, they said, hands up, don't shoot. They painted the image of this young man who ended up getting shot, who reached into the police car to get the officer's gun. And then he got away, and then the officer approached again. And then it was reported by witnesses. He put his hands up and said, don't shoot, and the officer shot him. Now, of course, later it was found that was not true. People lied, witnesses lied, and that did not happen. Physical evidence proved it did not happen. Yet we had weeks of NFL and commercials and people doing hands up, don't shoot, a propaganda message that never happened. But the poison has already occurred to the public's view of law enforcement. But for some reason, I believe it happened, probably started during the Obama administration, this defund anti-police movement. And then also now, President Obama has been reported that he went to the Department of Defense even to try to get rid of kind of conservative, right-leaning generals within the military. And they purged those generals out. And anybody that was for DEI or let's advance transgenders or people based on things other than meritocracy, other than merit, those people were promoted. And then so the military has been infiltrated by this crazy, chaotic poison of ideology and also law enforcement. And dividing law enforcement, it's always dividing community and law enforcement. The message is always, let's bring the community and the police together. This is a falsification of facts because guess what? The police are the community and the community are the police. I know because I was in recruitment. Guess where we get cops from? The community. Brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters of people are police officers. This is not a group of people that are not human. No, they're taking from the actual community. That's where we recruit from. We recruit from family members who are in law enforcement, who are encouraging their sons, daughters, mothers, brothers, and sisters. Usually, hey, listen, this is what this job offers you. Listen, you can serve here. This is what I do. You might want to pursue this as a career. So at one time, people in law enforcement encouraged other family members to partake in that career, painting a picture of what it's actually like and the fulfillment that you will get from serving in a law enforcement agency. That has really gone down probably next to zero. I know a lot of people personally who are telling their family members, listen, don't do it. Don't go into law enforcement. People are retiring early because why would you want to go into a profession, even though it's an honorable, God-ordained profession, when the picture's been painted, the poison of the media to the public that, it's a systemic racist organization. Why would you want to be looked down upon as you serve the community, you serve to protect families and people of the United States and uphold the Constitution, defend the Constitution against foreign and domestic enemies? Why would you want to do that? But people are still doing it. We have a lot of honorable serving law enforcement officers. I've been talking to them recently. I've been talking to a friend of mine who started a chaplaincy. He's a chaplain for Rochester, New York Police Department, Monroe County Sheriff, upstate New York. And he's telling me some of these young officers are very dedicated to the profession, to the job. They are of the highest moral standard. And they're really putting their heart and soul into their jobs. He's there on the scene with them. And he's telling me that the departments are they're doing the best job they can with the amount of people they have. And even in small cities like Rochester, upstate New York, they're having trouble recruiting people too. But we would always recruit people from the community, and we would recruit people from colleges. When we would actually take, for the LA Sheriff's Department, we would go and test. We would test people at colleges, people who were getting ready to graduate. They really didn't know what they were going to do with their degree. And we told them, listen, this is what this department offers you. You have a degree in science, whatever. And when you have a degree, the LA Sheriff's Department bumps your pay to start with. Your starting pay is higher than someone without a degree. And it doesn't have to be in criminal justice. There's a lot of benefits that goes from just getting a higher education, and you start your police career at a higher starting pay salary. And so we would recruit at colleges. We would go to military bases. We would go to Camp Pendleton, where people were coming from their deployments overseas, and they were about to transition from military service into the civilian life. And we would test them as they return. We would go to Camp Pendleton, go to the military bases, and we would have reserve officers who were high-ranking reserve officers in the military to be our spokespersons, so that people would really, they had credibility to talk to the people in the military and say, hey, this is the truth that they're telling you about this job. And we got a lot of people from the military. So we would try to get the highest moral value people that we could to join up, to take the test. And once they got into the test, then they entered the background phase, and that's where people are eliminated. It starts from the initial interview when people show up, how they're dressed, how they act, whether they can make eye contact, and what they say, what their attitude is. And then, there's a long application process, and they go into that in deep depth. That application is so long, so many pages, a lot of it repeats. There's clinical psychologists and psychiatrists who develop a portion of that test that's geared towards finding out people who may have problems, and probably law enforcement shouldn't be their career path. And then when they take their psych test, when they're interviewed with a psychologist, and they go over what they put on that application, these psychologists are very, very good at ferreting out maybe someone who might have, a psychological background that wouldn't be suited for law enforcement. And so I know the LA Sheriff's Department, LAPD, and the California Highway Patrol, because I know personally that they do an amazing job. Now, of course, some people go bad. Things happen. People suffer from different things. They get involved in alcoholism and or drugs, even law enforcement, which is why we have to have not only a policing ourselves agency within the department, we also need outside review boards that look at things to find out and to review actions, after action, analyzation of what happened and what was justified, unjustified. And we have a lot of those things. But we need to not have a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you say how bad policing is, how bad law enforcement is, this God-ordained profession, irregardless, these men and women, I'm noticing when I see the Hero Down Memorial page, Officer Down Memorial page, I'm seeing there was just recently a couple female officers who were struck by vehicles and were in fatal car crashes. These families are devastated by the loss. The neighbors are devastated. The friends and the family are devastated. They basically are probably going to suffer from PTSD by the tragic loss of these law enforcement brothers and sisters. And so we need to come together in supporting us in the law enforcement. And I say us because, as I said before, the community and the police are not separate as much as the mainstream media would paint that picture. We need to bring the community and the cops together. No, we take from the community and they become our police officers. A long time ago, the model was, hey, listen, we need a group of us to step aside, stand guard for us, protect us, and let us safely act in our community, work our jobs, support our families, earn our income, and you have to step aside and put your life on the line to protect us, to allow us to live freely in this country, in the community that we live in, without fear of being a victim of a violent crime. And so people, men and women, are still stepping forward today, and they're raising their hands, they're taking the oath, and this is a profession where people are putting themselves, they sign the dotted line. People don't want to die in service in law enforcement, but they do sign on the dotted line knowing you may give up your life in service to someone you don't even know. And this happens more than you might think it happens. So believe me, there's a lot of reforms that I know. I have great ideas to reform in law enforcement. First of all, listen, I've been retired and I'm going to do a podcast episode specifically on fitness in law enforcement. I've been retired over 10 years. I'm in top physical condition. I can go into the academy right now. So when I see someone in uniform who's fat, overweight, I have no respect for them. They should really resign immediately. My standards are higher than law enforcement agency standards in physical fitness. This affects the mental fitness also, which could lead to corruption and misdeeds by these officers as they go down the wrong path of disease of not only the body but of the mind. And so I want to see law enforcement agencies holding officers to a higher standard throughout their career so that when they retire, they're in top physical condition as they were when they graduated from the academy. Agencies do such a great job as they recruit and hire people and make sure before they even come into the academy, they take a physical agility test for the LA Sheriff's Department. And believe me, they actually coach these applicants prior to them taking the physical agility test. They have a coaching system in place. Get yourself in shape before you come on the department into the academy because we want you to succeed. This is what you need to be doing physically before you even take the test. And let me tell you, the test, you're not going to pass this test if you're fat and out of shape, at least for the LA Sheriff's Department. It's not a long test, but it's enough to ferret out the lazy, fat, and out of shape. It only runs about 2 minutes and 50 seconds when I took it, but in that 2 minutes and 50 seconds, you have to climb a 6-foot wall, walk on a balance beam, and then you have to jump off that beam, climb a chain link fence, jump through a window, run a quarter of a mile, drag a 150, 170-pound dummy. Then you have to use an arrest simulator, show enough strength that you could pull somebody's hands behind their back. And if you don't make it within that 2 minutes and 50 seconds, you don't pass. And when you graduate from that academy, believe me, you're going to be in physical shape. The LA Sheriff's Department has gone to great lengths studying nutrition, physical exercises, PT. Physical training is a dominant part of the LA Sheriff's, LAPD, California Highway Patrol Academy. Many, many years ago, they had someone who graduated from the academy when they were strictly focused on running. And they had a recruit in East Los Angeles Station. He was chasing a gang member. He caught up to that gang member because he was a good runner. And that gang member took him down, took his gun, and he executed him with his own gun. During the autopsy, it was discovered this recruit really had little to zero muscle mass. He was a good runner, but physically strong, he was not. And that's when they changed training to have, and they incorporate now both physical strength training along with cardio. And so when you graduate, you're in great shape. So when I graduated, I was in great shape, even though I was in pretty great shape when I joined up, because I've always worked out since I was 16 years old and used weights and trained consistently. So when I graduated, I was in great shape. I was never tested again. No one ever brought me in again in 30-year career and say, we got to test you to make sure you're still in top physical condition. Never happened. I continued to train. I had higher standards for myself than the department did for their own employees. That's one thing I would reform. Blue, backing the blue. That's what this episode is about. Let's step forward as a blue community. That's not only current, retired law enforcement, their family, friends, those in our community that we back the blue. Blue backing the blue is not only sworn, it's those members in the community that are part of the family. And if you're a citizen of the United States, you are part of the blue family. Believe me, because that's who we protect. You, me. We are part of the solution. All right, everybody, that's Cliff Yates, retired LA Sheriff Sergeant. I even had some things out there why we have to back the blue. I actually had 10. Why not go into them? Why do we have to back the blue and have a great law enforcement agency? If it's not good enough, we need to raise the standards. Let's make some changes. But people join up, and they don't really let people in that are bad. They either go bad or maybe they miss something, but very rarely, because the background Investigation system is very stringent, but to have public safety, we need police officers to, police officers work tirelessly, different shifts. People will comment, oh, you have a great pension, and now look at you. You have all this money and your medical's covered. Because of 30 years, you go without seeing your family. You don't go to the ball games. You don't go see your kids because Christmas, you're working. New Year's, you're working. Father's Day, you're working. Mother's Day, you're working. You're not there for those holidays. Thanksgiving, you're working. 9 a.m., you're sleeping. 2 a.m., you're working. You're on the street making sure the people are sleeping are safe. I'm not going to go into all these because I think I basically covered talking from my heart. I didn't need notes or a teleprompter. After 35 years of service, I knew what the message was. Blue backing blue. And don't fall for a lot of the bullshit that comes out of the media about the police. We need to, have strict punishment for bad cops. No one hates bad cops more than good cops because to be an effective law enforcement agency, we need public trust. Otherwise, you're going to have too many cops, and we don't want a police state. We actually want less cops. If you have less cops, but the community works with the police, you don't need so many. I don't need 30. I only need 2. I need 2 courageous cops that are going to work with the community, take people down, take them to be judged by someone else. We are not judge and jury. We arrest people based on probable cause and the laws that we are enforcing. The judges, they are the ones who will convict and sentence, not us. All right, everybody, I'm Cliff Yates. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Join the Blue Army. Come on, let's do this. I love you. See you at the next episode.